Whenever the spirit moves, yeah.
A study from 2011 to 2015 by Georgia State University found that the U.S. news covers terrorist attacks by Muslims 4.5 times more than a terrorist attack committed by a non-Muslim. Because of U.S. news' representation of Muslims as terrorists, this causes people to have a disproportionate fear of Muslims. This semester, I've been researching the relationship between Muslims and the U.S. news. In today's speech, I'm going to inform all of you about how the U.S. news portrays Muslims as terrorists through the usage of religion, descriptive language, and bias. To begin, I want to talk about how the U.S. news ties the Muslim religion to terrorism. One way they do this is through connecting the Quran to terrorism. One example brings us back to 2015 during the San Bernardino attack, when a married couple killed 14 and injured 22 at the Inland Regional Center. A couple days after the shooting, CNN, Fox News, and New York Times were able to go into the household of the perpetrators and take a video of what they found. On December 11, 2015, David Zerowick from the Baltimore Sun wrote a statement saying how troubling it was to see that the Quran represents terroristic tendencies. This is a picture that one of the news reporters used, and the Quran to Muslims is basically like the Bible to Christians. And the news reporters showed this to show that the perpetrators actively participated in the Muslim religion. The second way they use religion is by saying that mosques are a place devoted to teaching terrorism. On her news blog called Geller Report, Pamela Geller talked about a mosque being built near 9/11 or Ground Zero. She says that mosques built near Ground Zero should be mosques that are devoted to getting rid of Muslim teachings, and that mosques are built to teach terrorism. To continue, now I want to talk about the language and bias used by the U.S. news to make Muslims look like terrorists. One type of language they use is by essentializing Muslims by saying that Muslims should be held responsible for terrorist attacks. One example can be from a 2015 interview after the Paris attack between CNN anchors Isha Sese and John Voss and their guest Yasser Louadi, who is a representative for the Collective Against Islamophobia in France. During the interview, John Voss says to Yasser that people in the Muslim community should know when a Muslim attack is going to happen, who the terrorist is going to be, and he also said that all Muslims should be held responsible and they should apologize for the terrorist attacks. U.S. News also uses solidifying language. One example can be from this month, when Las Vegas Review-Journal columnist Wayne Allen Root jumped onto Twitter and said that the Las Vegas shooting was a, and I quote, clearly coordinated Muslim terror attack. He tweeted this before the shooter was revealed. Words like clearly cause people to jump to conclusions about the Muslim connection to terrorism. It also removes all doubt from the audience's mind that Muslims are responsible for the attack. I now want to talk about the bias in news about tying the word Muslim to terrorism. I'm going to bring back up the Las Vegas shooting example and talk about what was said by Poynter Journal. Poynter talks about how if a Muslim were to mow down tons of people, it would be considered a terrorist attack. But if a white person or a non-Muslim were to do the same, it would be considered a mass shooting, or he would be considered a loner or a freak. They also talked about how the Las Vegas shooting was considered a mass shooting instead of a terrorist attack. I'm now going to close out the presentation about how the U.S. news portrays Muslims as terrorists. I talked about how the U.S. news portrays Muslims as terrorists by connecting the Muslim religion to terrorism through the Quran and the mosques. I then talked about the usage of language such as essentializing and directly blaming Muslims for the attacks, and using solidifying language by using words like clearly to get rid of all doubt and make the Muslim connection to terrorism. They then use bias by connecting the word Muslim to terrorism. The evidence now shows that the U.S. news does portray Muslims as terrorists.